Welcome to the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And now, your host, Heather Newman.
Hello, everyone. Here we are again for another Mavens Do It Better podcast, where we interview extraordinary experts that bring a light to our world. And have I got a light for you today? Hello, Stacy Deere. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Awesome. It's so nice to see you. Where are you coming to us from?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yay.
A very chilly Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in winter, that is for sure. So, and I'm here at Marina Del Rey HQ, a little warmer than in Cincinnati, for sure. So, Stacy and we've known each other a long time now.
Very long time.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I knew we were going to talk today and I was like, ooh, gosh, it's been a really long time. And, I was just talking to another gal, Emily Mancini, about TechCon because SharePoint TechCon, because the last one of those in-person ones was, I think, literally this weekend a year ago. I wasn't there.
Yes.
Were you there speaking?
I was. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Was that your last in-person event?
It was.
Okay.
I think so. It was. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I know. We were just talking before we got on about, sort of so this week is, the time last year when we all started learning about COVID and pandemic and stuff. And so it's like a lot of last times for certain things were happening over this week and kind of next.
Yeah. A lot of last and a lot of firsts.
Right? Yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So Stacy and I know each other from the tech world, and you have a beautiful business that you had for a really long time. Tell everybody about what you do.
So I own a consulting company, SharePoint and M365. We just had our 9th anniversary on the 10th of this month.
Wow.
Yep. And we've been work from home for 8 of those 9 years. So
Okay.
with just the nature of the business, it really just didn't make sense for an office with the hours that we work and evenings and stuff like that. And it just made more sense, which has helped me grow the business, honestly, from an employee standpoint, because I literally have employees all over the place. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's super cool. So what is the business? So we've got a lot of tech listeners, but we've got a lot of folks who are not as well. So what do you focus on? What do you help customers with?
So the other great thing is we have a lot of a deep breadth of knowledge across the board. So we still do a lot of on-prem, from strategy to implementation, support and maintenance, design, branding, all that kind of stuff, literally end to end, from, just with sparkle in your eye to, you're ready to take the next step. And M365, of course, when that came around, same type of thing, but just different architecture behind the scenes, plus being in cloud.
Right.
But essentially the same thing. But with M365, we've been able to grow because we have the other apps that are included as well. So it's not just SharePoint anymore. That's why literally I say and M365, because you got this big old bucket of things. So I have to say, in the last 2 years, my security and compliance knowledge is, about ready to make my head explode. Still do a lot with user adoption, governance, as you know, is one of my all-time favorite things. But still, implementation, support. It's a whole new different support type of scenario.
Right.
And user adoption, people got really comfortable in on-prem, right? And then it was a change for the better, but how to keep that adoption plus grow it all at the same time. So essentially, as I tell a lot of people, to end to end, if you can think about it in M365, we do it, right?
Right, yeah.
So, and with modern, that's changing. Well, the whole thing changes at once a week if you to get the updates, right?
Blink. What? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Wait a minute. Wasn't that there yesterday? One of those. So it's so we the great thing is everybody on the team is very technically like, hey, there's something new. Let's go play, right? And then we incorporate it into our conversations with our clients. So I like the change and I hate the change all at the same time. So,
yeah. I don't know. I think like keeping up with it, right, is the big thing. And then also sort of being a learn it all, at any given time. There's a lot to know.
It is. And, in the security and compliance, that kind of rolled right into governance for me. Right. And so I had to deep dive into that because it's all different now and how that works and syncing with the Azure and AD and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like another door opened and I'm like, okay, I cannot fit anymore in my brain. Right. So I'm like, everything's got to slow down for a little bit. Right. But that's never going to happen. You just have to figure out what to tackle at any given time. See if you can get someone else to focus. Like, hey, I learned this. You mind go do the deep dive on it, and then like maybe share it with the team kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You have to do that. You're as an individual person, nobody is going to be able to stay up on it. Divide and conquer is my favorite with it.
Yeah, it's like learning as a team sport for sure. Yeah. And what you're interested in. I mean, at the end of the day, because if there's some things that you're just like, oh my goodness, that's not my bailiwick, and you can trade off with other people. So, you've been how old is SharePoint Saturday Cincinnati?
Oh.
Like you've done almost as long as a business, right? Maybe
actually longer than we will be having our 10th this year.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
awesome.
It would be our 10th. Yeah.
That's
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Hey, better planning to raise that roof a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with that special. Everybody loves my T-shirts I come up with. I have to come up with something super special this
Absolutely.
year.
Oh, my Cincinnati trip, that was, so do you always do it over Halloween?
So we always try to do it around then.
Right.
It was just that adding a little extra fun to it, especially in Cincinnati, there is really never a great time to do one here because Cincinnati is very hardcore sports oriented.
Right.
So like all year round, there's sports, one type, so it's hard to get parents in.
Right. Yeah.
So, what's that extra little thing that we can do and have some fun with it?
Sure.
And that was the thing that we chose to do since October seemed the best time to get the most people.
Right. Yeah. So for listeners who are like, what are you talking about? Well, SharePoint Saturday, a set of events that have started years ago of a bunch of us in the community getting together and saying, we want to put on an event on a Saturday, and it's a day long. It depends on how big they are, but Twin Cities, they do it twice a year, and it's 800 people or something like that used to come.
600 to 800.
Yeah. And how you have a ton of people that were coming to yours too, right?
So for a while we were getting like 200 and something like that. The last few years it's been lower. Like going virtual this past year with everything, we had a really nice crowd. Yeah. I'm hoping that kind of sparked things up a little bit for when we do meet in person again. But we've always been around the 100, 120 range the last few years, just because unfortunately you get a good weekend in October and everybody's like, I'm going outside.
Yeah, right.
So if it's raining, then everybody comes and learns. But if it's
like, I want a rainy weekend. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I always pray for the cold, rainy weekends. Everybody's like, what? I'm like, you wouldn't understand.
Right. Completely. Well, and it goes hand in hand with you've been involved with and co-organizing the user group there forever too. Well.
Yes. Yeah. We changed the Cincinnati user group to Tri-State user group. Because in Cincinnati, Kentucky's right across the river,
sure. Yeah,
Indiana. So it's literally, so we named it Tri-State to incorporate those. And oddly enough, we get people from all over the United States to join. Yeah. And but it's awesome to talk to people once a month that way. Because like when I go and do some of my virtual sessions at different events, it's so weird. Like they'll follow you. And I think that's just like the coolest thing. I'm like, oh, hey, so-and-so, hey, and it's nice. I mean, we've got such an amazing community. We always have.
Yeah, completely. What do you feel like, since, you're someone who has produced and run these things for a long time, what are some of the major things that you've seen as far as the shifts in virtual? I know we were talking about it a little bit here, but like any other big major things that you sort of see or think that are going to stick, or, what were the big shifts for you?
Well, things that I keep thinking about for future is the fact that we have been able to plug into people that weren't local, that people are everywhere, right? So I kind of think that might be a way you can bring in the aspect of having local plus virtual, at least the sessions. There's the interaction with the sponsors and vendors and all that kind of stuff that they wouldn't get, and things like that. But I think it might be really nice if we could still at least have the sessions virtual for people who can attend, because it's a free event, right?
Yeah.
So I think that maybe we might get a mesh between the two.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
But I'm excited to get back into person because I'm such a people person. Like I, especially during COVID, and I was considered high risk with, my infections and stuff that I've had. So I haven't went anywhere hardly ever. Like it was a doctor or whatever, and I was done.
Right. Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time at home, but I'm most looking forward to that. Things that I think the virtual stuff, it was the only option we had to stay connected and get the information out there. And I think these events have done a great job at it.
Yeah.
In the fact that just yesterday I made a joke to somebody. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like literally around the world today, but sitting in my office in Cincinnati. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yet I miss the people at the same time.
Yeah, I do too. I know. I think my last event was European SharePoint Conference in Prague. And I know that sounds fancy, but for me, that was last December, a year ago. And it's just, it's pretty wild not having gone any place after doing I think I did 27 events in 2019, something like that.
Yeah, I did quite a few as well. I had remembered, I did Live 360 in Florida.
Oh, right.
And it was in December. And then the only one, I did a SharePoint Saturday event, I think in January, February, then SB Tech Con, or the SB Con, and then we were done. Yeah. Right? It was crazy, but it's so hard. It's like the light switch went out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because it took a while for people to ramp up too with the virtual.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big sort of switcheroo, I guess. I had just started dabbling in it for stuff here. And literally it was because of my travel schedule that I was like, if we do this virtual, I could do it from anywhere, and so it was sort of sticking one in between an in-person one, but hadn't really, perfected it. And it's, and it's still a little interesting trying to get those things done. Yeah.
We had a lot of businesses actually reach out to us. And they're like, we know you've been work from home for years. Yeah. Can you help us?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm like, I never thought about that, but we started getting calls. I started getting emails, and they're like, how do you know your people are doing their job? And I'm like, when someone's doing their job and when they're not, right? Especially if you got tasks and deadlines and stuff like that. And which I found out from a lot of people that they don't, right? They assign them a task, but they don't really give them due dates to, and so different aspect that way. Right. And then that also led to, how do we use our technology we own to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that you, like everyone else, have just seen the explosion of Microsoft Teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Lots of it. COVID had a huge impact. So I've been doing some work with real estate. So they have commercial and residential.
Right.
So they have people that, manage the different buildings and all this kind of stuff, but then they couldn't, nobody could go in the office. They couldn't have meetings. They couldn't do all that stuff. And they had no system.
Ah, wow. Sure.
Right. And so it's, but Teams, that's going to, they got plugged in, they started instantly using Teams and seeing the benefit. They didn't know really what they were doing, right? Because they just needed it, right? So it's like the old saying was go next, and go, planning kind of thing. And now they're going back and, putting some strategy to it. But, you got to do what you got to do in that type of situation. But I think Teams was intuitive and is intuitive enough that they could get done what they needed to get done. And that was great.
Yeah. I'm finding that too in talking to people in businesses that they, may have implemented very quickly. And now they're a little okay, like you were saying, let's go back and sort of look at what we did and how many teams and what channels and, all that kind of stuff. Let's look at our infrastructure and architecture.
Yeah. So it was one of the things I always joke with them. They're like, you're going to see this and you're going to just say it's a mess. And I said, I'm going to tell you what. I said, anybody that was ever SharePoint on-prem, their environment that they were using, if it was really nice, was not their first environment.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody
You're
always
right.
did a rebuild, right? Because they just did the
Yep.
next.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah,
did
yeah.
fluids and they had all kinds of stuff, right? And
Right.
then when things weren't working or they wanted to do more, they're like, all right, we got to start from scratch.
Yep.
Now we know there's so much more we can do, and they all start from scratch. I just tell them, I was like, you know what? This is just another thing in that same wave. It happens.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The good thing is it's a little easier to deal with in teams than it was in an on-prem environment. So thumbs up to that.
Yeah. Woohoo. Yeah, for sure. I want to switch gears. I want to talk about how you got started. So you're from Ohio.
Yes.
And how did you get into tech? Like where was that love for you? Where did that start?
So oddly enough, I went to a country school, like where I had 36 people in my graduating class.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And there were no computers at my school. So I know everybody was like, then how the heck do you get into computers?
Yeah, sure.
So like my senior year, a family of a student that was a grade lower than me, their family got a new computer and they donated the other one to the school.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't the greatest computer. I mean, they literally got a new one. So, clearly it wasn't that great. But I was big into accounting. I've always been very efficient typing. And then accounting I was really good at. And so that's instantly was my path going into college.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because with, that number of students and classes, I never got time on that computer. And I was like, I'm a senior. I already know what my path is. I'm just, I know that sounds weird now, right? But so my first year, I literally was an accounting major.
Okay.
And I tested out of keyboarding and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, that was cool because I typed all the time. I would help in the office. And it's like, well, that was sweet. So I was really good at that.
Yep.
Well, then they made you take entry-level computer classes.
Gotcha.
Computers are numbers and analytical, logical things, right?
Yep.
And I just blew through it. I tested out my first computer class my second weekend.
Wow.
No idea how I did it. It was just something, it came natural.
Right.
And then, so I just, kept taking those classes as my electives. Essentially, I was taking my required and then took them as electives. And finally, I was just like, I'm done with this accounting thing. Numbers are making my head hurt. Changing.
Right.
So then I I switched everything to computer technology. I actually have 3 degrees in all, but so I changed at that time to computer technology and business administration.
Gotcha.
Because I always thought about wanting to own my own business, and I just did not think it was going to be in computers when I did that. So I switched from an accounting firm type of thing to computer firm. So it was all downhill from there.
Yeah,
literally. I mean, I'm that crazy person that took electives with things I really did not need, but I wanted the knowledge. I wanted to, get my toe wet in it and see if it was something I liked. Leave it to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So okay, so you took all the electives and you've been running your own business for 9 years, right? So there's always a lot of inspiring, stories and so I have folks that listen to this that are sort of the career, picking their careers, or people who are like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? If you do it again, would you start your business?
Yes. And I know that sounds strange, especially if you know me and see the number of hours that I work. Mm-hmm. But what people don't get, those number of hours to me equal number of enjoyment as well, because I love what I'm doing.
Right.
If I didn't like what I was doing, I'd probably say, nope, never again.
Yeah.
But I love every minute of it. Do I get stressed? Do I get tired, exhausted? Absolutely. But I tell you what, I don't know if I would have it any other way.
Yeah.
I love what I do. And if I didn't, I mean, I told you I'd like to, dabble in things. I've been even dealing. Have you ever heard of NBA Top Shots by any chance?
No.
So it's based off of blockchain and crypto.
Oh, wow.
So in my spare time, my brother and I have been doing that. And so we own NBA moments, and you literally build a portfolio and stuff like that. So I've been playing with that, and then the technology behind the crypto and the blockchain and how it's working. It's something that's blowing up. And if you ever get the chance, you ought to check it out, because they're based out of California, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've gone to a crypto and Bitcoin conference. God, it was like now a year and a half ago. I went to that. It was the first one in Los Angeles. and sort of was like, and they were talking about there was a fork that was going to happen. Like, and that was a really big deal. And I haven't done as much on that, but it seems fascinating.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the first time I won a pack and I opened a moment, it was a LeBron James dunk. I was one happy girl. So, yeah, because you know me, I love sports, right? So my brother, I used to do the baseball cards and football cards and stuff like that with my brothers. I mean, I got all brothers, right? So I did that stuff when I was younger. And he's like, hey, it's all on computer and they're using blockchain and crypto and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, he just said three of my favorite things, right?
Yeah, right.
Technology and sports. Hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, even in my downtime, it's something technology based, but it's what I like to do. It's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know, my pups make me happy, and but you know, they have geeky names too. So you know, it just all bleeds into it. But that's just what makes me happy.
That's super fun. A piece of advice to somebody starting a business: what would be like your number one? Like, either you absolutely should do this or you absolutely should not do this.
Well, there's a few things. What should I talk about though? Always plan for the unexpected growth. I know a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to plan big. I want to stay small as long as you can. That's a great thought.
Yep.
But then just think, if something like COVID happens, and you wish you had 3 of you or 4 of you, right?
Right.
You have to make sure that how you're building things, always build for the future. Don't build for the time.
Right.
One of the things that, because we started getting so crazy busy, and you know, it's always been on the plate, right? But to update, you know, lists and automation and all that kind of stuff in our own system, but all of a sudden, you know, a lot of people are like, hey, COVID's the time to do that. And I'm like, really? Because I ain't got any time. You know, like we're swamped, right? With everybody trying to do emergency migrations and all that kind of stuff. Always plan for something like that. A lot of businesses that I've been working with, they wish they would have planned for something like this. And I think in the future, more people will.
Yeah.
But everybody needs to always think about stuff like that. Don't ever think it won't happen.
Yeah. Sort of like, I feel like people should always have their resumes ready, no matter what.
Absolutely.
You know, like we're all replaceable, unfortunately, you know what I mean? And fortunately, I guess, you know, so that means you can move on. But I think developing a community, developing contacts, and always having sort of that stuff ready to go, because you never know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, without the community and the people that I know and communicate with, you know, I've got a ton of subs of people from the community that I know, right?
Yep.
And I have that because of the community, right?
Yeah.
You know, they have the opportunity to do work for my company because of the community. You know, they're, you know, be ready and never, it never hurts to ask, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. You know, that was someone I was talking to during COVID, their pay got cut. They weren't allowed to do side work at that time. So then, you know, they said, hey, you know, if you're going to cut our pay, can we do side work? But they never said anything. You know, this person never said anything. And I take this person in a heartbeat. Right. Yeah. And so we were having a conversation one day. We just called and we're catching up. And he was telling me about it. I was like, dude, if you need some work, I was like, I can load you up. And he goes, really? You know, so he got it worked out. And the next day he joined the morning meeting and he's like, okay, you weren't joking. I was like, I told you, I got work to do.
Yeah, right.
Speak up, right?
Yeah.
Speak up. There are many people in the community that need help. Many.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just reach out. There's always people that help.
That's super cool. And I'm sure he was super happy. And, you know, and that's the cool stuff about, I think, any community that you're participating in is that like you were saying, sort of just circle back to the beginning of it, right? It's like everybody together helping each other, you know? And that's, I found that is so fun.
Yeah. I don't think that my company would be as nearly as successful if it wasn't for the community. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I think everybody helps each other and looks out for each other too, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I get people all the time. They're like, hey, you know, how much do you spend on marketing? How much should I budget? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not a good person to ask that to. And they're like, well, why? Can you tell me what you guys do? And I'm like, no, because we don't really market a lot. We actually, you know, we get a lot of clients from word of mouth of other clients. I mean, I've had clients that I've had for 10 plus years.
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
From my other consulting company, they waited. And, so, I've got over probably half of my clients, I've been with us for 5 years plus.
Yep. Yeah.
And so as people leave companies and go to other companies, then they bring those companies in.
Absolutely.
So word of mouth, speaking at the events, all that kind of stuff, that's our marketing.
Yeah,
and it's not the typical marketing strategy, but in this type of, with the community and stuff, how we work.
Yeah.
Just there.
Yeah. And I feel like there's something also about supporting your local area too. Like you have, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure you have clients all over the country and probably, the world as well. But I bet there's a large chunk of them that are also local, not just Cincinnati, but the whole Midwestern area, right? Because, you just share.
Yeah, we're really close to Kentucky. So we're part of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, which is one of the largest. And they do a ton of things. And, we always sponsor their golf outing and we go hang out at a hole all day and, and stuff like that. But, being a part of that, just last year, we were up for Small Business of the Year.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, we made it to the finals. We didn't win, but we made it to the finals. That's
congratulations. Huge. That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. And I was proud of that. I mean, it means we did a great job and, we did what we needed to do. But because we're part of that chamber, there are a lot of companies that will only work with companies that are in their local chamber. Yep.
That's very true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I think people don't always think about that, like it's chamber. I'm like, no, I argue with people all the time about like Chamber of Commerce and like Rotary and Kiwanis and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, they're not old. That's not super old school stuff.
No.
Like that's a lot of the places where business is done in many towns, depending.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Northern Kentucky Chamber is one of the largest, and they have so many events. And they swapped over. They're doing Zoom, and they kept things up with the virtual. And they've done a great job, and it's a great organization. They do a lot for the community. The other companies that are involved, man, it's nice you meet a lot of people. Companies are making. There's another tidbit. Get part of your chamber. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. It's so nice. We haven't seen each other in a long time, so I'm like everybody. So I'm all like, yay! So it's good to see you too. I'm like, okay. I'm going to take us into our last question. How about that?
Okay. All right.
Yes. So as you know, I'm really interested in sparks and moments, and so if you would share with our listeners a spark or moment, person, place, thing, book, poem that really kind of brings you into who you are in this moment today.
So to me, it was sports. So I was an only girl growing up with 5 brothers. If you have 5 brothers, they have friends. So you got like 20 brothers, right? Right. So very heavy on the male influence. So I was always shorter. I was girl. I was, clearly disadvantaged in the family. And I had to but we were all big in sports. And I was able to prove myself in sports by learning, playing hard, working hard. And what it really got me is, hey, if I worked hard enough, I could get picked by one of the teams, the guys' teams or whatever. Yeah. And it was funny. The better I got through the years, the higher I moved up that ladder.
Right.
So what I learned was there are things I didn't want to take after people during, growing up, but how could I get above and beyond all that? Right. And I found that was sports to me. Sports taught me a lot. Coaches taught me a lot. That foundation I've brought with me through life. Sports will always be a big part of me. Yeah. Clearly. Yeah. But if I didn't play sports, I don't think I'd be the same person that I am today. That is for sure.
Yeah. What were your sports that you played?
So I played volleyball, basketball, fast pitch, softball, and I ran track.
Yeah. I knew you were a softball player because I was a softball player from 8 till 18 myself. So fast pitch. Yep. Yeah. Do you think it's something? I think it's also something about the Midwest too.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, because I grew up in Indiana and Illinois as well. And so like that's my uncles played at Purdue and like, the whole nine. So I think it's part of it, right?
Yeah. And, so like my senior year, I blew my knee out.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was 2 weeks away from signing my full ride to play ball in college, which I would have gladly have done because with basketball and volleyball, and would have clearly done, would have loved it, would have done my studies and stuff as well. But getting hurt made me refocus of what was really important in life.
Mm-hmm.
But my sports helped me get to where I needed to go because I learned that if I worked hard, I could do it.
Yeah.
So, I am the shortest person in the family, but I can say I got a full ride to go play ball in college. But, you have to make choices in life. It's what you do with those choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And the things that happen to you and how do you bounce, right? For sure. You're a bouncer, lady.
I've had to bounce a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. I love talking to you. I miss you, by the way. So, yeah. I know. So, I know. Big hearts. I know. It's so awesome. Thank you for sharing your story with everybody. I learned some things about you that I didn't know for sure as well. So,
well, thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody, Stacy's got a great company. So tell everybody the company name and where people can find it out in the interwebs.
So the company name is Focal Point Solutions.
Yep.
So if you go to focalpointsolutions.com or .co, you can find us. We're out there. We have Facebook, Twitter. If you find me on LinkedIn, you'll find links to the company as well. But we're out there. Yeah, absolutely. So y'all follow Stacy. They have great content and they're doing great things for community and for customers and Microsoft 365. And hopefully we'll get to see each other at a in-person event sooner rather than later, lady. That's right. I need a vacation sometime. Maybe I'll have to come to California.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Cool. Oh, thank you so much for being on and sharing your story with our listeners.
No problem. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everybody, that has been another episode of the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And here is to another beautiful day on this big blue spinning sphere. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Stacy. Yay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
The original music on this podcast was created by Jesse Case.